Carson adjusted his daughter's scarf for the third time, his calloused hands trembling slightly in the bitter December cold. The spaceport's landing bay hummed with the energy of 1,000 reunions, but his stomach churned with dread. After 3 years of silence, his ex-wife was coming back to Earth. "Daddy, stop fussing," Alice said, her 7-year-old voice carrying that peculiar mixture of exasperation and affection that always made his heart ache. She looked so much like her mother, the same storm-gray eyes, the same defiant tilt to her chin. But where her mother had grown cold and distant, Alice remained warm, curious, impossibly brave. The arrival klaxon sounded, and Carson's jaw tightened. He'd received the message 3 days ago, tersely worded and characteristically void of emotion. Returning Earthside. Need to see Alice, December 24th, 19th hours, Base 7. No apology. No explanation for why she'd abandoned them to pursue her career in the draconian Imperial Guard. Humanity's controversial military partnership with the galaxy's most feared reptilian species. No acknowledgement that she'd missed 3 birthdays, 3 Christmases, 3 years of their daughter's childhood. The landing craft descended through the atmospheric shield, sleek and predatory, bearing the crimson insignia of the draconian fleet. Carson felt Alice's small hand slip into his, squeezing tight. She wasn't afraid. His daughter feared nothing, but she was uncertain. And that was somehow worse. The hatch hissed open, and she emerged. Commander Victoria Chen moved with the fluid grace of a predator. Her uniform bearing decorations Carson didn't recognize. Her face had hardened, aged in ways that 3 years shouldn't have allowed. But it was her eyes that struck him most. They'd always been gray, but now they held something ancient, something reptilian. The neural interface surgery, he realized. She'd gone further than most human officers, allowing draconian biotechnology to integrate with her nervous system. She'd become more dragon than woman. "Alice," Victoria said, her voice carrying harmonics that no human throat should produce. She didn't acknowledge Carson at all. Alice stepped forward, releasing her father's hand. Carson's heart hammered. His daughter studied her mother with the intense focus she usually reserved for the stars she loved so much. "You're different," Alice said simply. Victoria's expression flickered. Was that pain? Regret? It vanished too quickly to tell. "The service requires sacrifices. You'll understand when you're older." "I understand now," Alice replied, her voice steady. "You chose them over us." The words hung in the frozen air like shattered glass. Victoria's jaw clenched, the motion slightly too angular, too predatory. "I chose to protect humanity. The Draconian Alliance is the only thing standing between Earth and the Void Swarm. Every day I serve, I save billions of lives, including yours." "But not mine specifically," Alice said, with the brutal honesty only children possess. "You don't even know what grade I'm in. You don't know that Daddy teaches me astronomy every night. You don't know that I can name every constellation visible from our hemisphere, or that I want to be a stellar cartographer, or that I have nightmares about you not coming back." Carson moved to intervene, but something stopped him. Alice needed to say this. She'd been holding it in for 3 years. Victoria knelt, bringing herself to eye level with her daughter. Up close, the changes were more dramatic. Scales had begun forming along her temples. Her pupils had elongated slightly, and when she spoke, Carson caught a glimpse of elongated canines. "I came back," Victoria said, and for the first time, emotion cracked through her controlled facade. "I came back because the Draconians have a saying, a warrior without a hatchling to return to fights without purpose. I've been fighting. Alice, fighting so hard that I forgot what I was fighting for. Did you remember?" Alice asked, her voice small. Victoria reached out with a hand that now bore trace amounts of scaled plating along the knuckles. She stopped just short of touching her daughter's face, as if afraid. "I remembered tonight. Christmas Eve, you always loved Christmas Eve." Alice looked at her mother, really looked at her, studying the transformation, the evidence of choices made and prices paid. Carson saw his daughter's expression shift, saw the moment when childish hurt met something more complex. Understanding. "You're scared," Alice said quietly. "You're scared you're too different now. That we won't love you anymore." Victoria's breath hitched, a sound that carried both human grief and draconian distress. "I chose this. Every modification, every surgery, every step away from humanity. I chose it. And now I don't know if I can come back." The spaceport bustled around them. oblivious to this small family drama playing out in Bay 7. Carson watched his daughter, his brilliant, compassionate daughter, process something that should have been far too complex for a 7-year-old mind. Alice stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her mother's waist. Victoria froze, clearly not expecting this response. "Come home," Alice said, her voice muffled against her mother's scaled uniform. 2 words, simple, direct, impossibly powerful. Victoria's composure shattered. She wrapped her arms, human and yet not quite, around her daughter and pulled her close, her body shaking with sobs that sounded almost like the keening of dragons in mourning. The sound was wrong, alien, heartbreaking, and profoundly human. Carson approached slowly, placing a hand on Victoria's shoulder. She flinched, then looked up at him with those strange, beautiful, terrible eyes. "We have a spare room," he said quietly. "The divorce is final, and I won't pretend it didn't hurt. But Alice needs her mother. And maybe you need us too." "I'm not the woman you married," Victoria whispered. "No," Carson agreed, looking down at his daughter, who still clung to her mother with fierce determination. "But Alice is right. You should come home. At least for Christmas." Victoria looked between them, her ex-husband who'd raised their daughter alone, and the child who somehow had the wisdom to see past scales and neural interfaces to the terrified woman underneath. "Just for Christmas," she said finally, her voice breaking. Alice looked up, smiling through tears. "That's how it starts. Mama, that's how everything starts." As they walked together toward the exit, an unlikely trio, Carson realized that humanity's strength had never been about the weapons they could build, or the alliances they could forge. It was in moments like this, in forgiveness and second chances, in a child's ability to see the parent behind the monster. The stars above Earth twinkled with promise, and for the first time in 3 years, Carson allowed himself to hope. Outside, snow began to fall on Christmas Eve, covering the world in forgiving white.